Hello everyone, Oliver G here, the host of the Earful Tower, which you may have noticed recently is being presented by French Today, which is a series of audiobooks to teach you French. So I'm partnering up with them, and I've got the woman behind the whole thing on the show today, and we're talking about beginner French. Now I realize a lot of the listeners to the show probably don't know much of French. I know a lot of the listeners to the show probably speak much better French than I do, but I think there's something in this episode for everyone. Because we cover the sort of basics of if you come to Paris or France for the first time, what you should know and how you should pronounce it, but also a few more subtle things that I had no idea about the proper way to tell someone you don't understand. I'd never heard of the way that fancy people say, I guess the equivalent of bye-bye in English. Bye-bye. There's a French way of saying it. We talked about all sorts of things, including my problems with French administration and how I tackle it. Anyway, that's all in this episode with Camille. As I've said in the past few episodes, if you use the code frenchtoday.com/earful1, that will work for the whole month to get you an additional 10% off the audiobooks. So if you like what you hear, consider signing up, learn French alongside with me. And here's what happened when Camille was in the studio from Brittany talking about beginner French. And for the rest of you, the next episode on Monday will be with one of the lead dancers from the Moulin Rouge, who I met with just yesterday in Paris. I was backstage at the Moulin Rouge after watching a very fantastic show. So I'm going to be talking with Amanda Chapman on Monday, and I hope to see you then. But first, here's Camille from French Today talking us through how to speak français. Let's go. Camille, welcome to the studio.
Bonjour, Olivier.
Oh, how's it? Wow, that went... You turned me French. You threw me off. But thank you before we even start for the gift you brought into the studio. What do you call this thing?
C'est un bol.
We gotta do it in English. We gotta stick in English for the beginning at least.
Okay, it's I don't know, but you tell me how I call it. I call it un bol,
okay.
But you
so
may
like
call it a bowl or something.
So
like that.
is it a traditional Breton bowl?
It is with a traditional drawing and your name.
So I'll put a picture of it on Instagram stories, which Camille and I have been discussing today already. But it's like it's got the handles on the side, so you can drink out of it.
Absolutely.
And when you go to Brittany, where you're from, you see these in the shops.
Absolutely, yeah.
And this has got my name on it, Olivier. I guess they didn't have Oliver.
They didn't have Oliver, so you have to settle for Olivier.
No, I'm very grateful for that. That's great. So I use it for like breakfast, as in food. You don't drink out of it.
You can do whatever you want.
Yeah,
Put your keys in it if you want.
Oh,
and it's yours, you know.
Anyway. We're here to talk about, language. Yeah. But also this idea of, I think a lot of listeners to this show are people who love Paris and France. A lot of them who come to this country and who are probably afraid to speak French. Do you think that sounds...
It sounds about right.
Kind of story you've heard before.
It's scary. It is scary. Yeah.
And what we're going to do is we're going to sort of walk through a few tips and ideas for how to make it less scary and sort of correct a few of the mistakes that people might be making. But not just for beginners. We're going to throw a few fun things in there as well.
Okay.
So before we get started, I wanted to talk. I mean, you've been a French teacher for like quite a while now, right?
Over 20 years, yeah.
And do you find that the sort of beginner phase is one that, I mean, that must be what you work most with?
I work with all levels, really. But yeah, beginners is really important because like any journey, there's a right way to start the journey and another way. I mean, it's not how fast you go with the journey, but, you know, it's better if you start on the right path from the beginning. Better experience.
Right. So it's kind of like almost... It's a good segue here is when you're first meeting a French person, I think we should talk a little bit about this.
Okay.
Because I'm thinking about some people I know who've come to France as tourists and can be afraid to even say anything in French because they don't want to get it wrong.
Yeah.
And then they maybe just speak English from the start. Is that a no-no?
Well, it's not a no-no, but it's true that there's a leap of faith to be taken when you're going to be speaking in another language. And I think that when you go to another country, it's part of the experience to actually try to say a few words. And it all starts with politeness. And you might think it's silly to just say, oh, bonjour, merci, au revoir, okay? But it's a sign that you are interested in the culture, that you're making an effort, and it's good for you, for your self-esteem also, to just go and try to say that. French people may take it a little bit for granted, think that it's very normal that you say bonjour, but for you it's part of the experience, and it's difficult. Don't think that you're the only one who's scared before just saying bonjour. You know how to say bonjour, you've learned it and so on, but yet you're in Paris, you're in front of this boulanger, you know, at La Boulangerie, and you have to get it out. And it's great if you do, and you should try to do it.
You know what I think that maybe scares people is when, so French, there's definitely a fear, and I've felt this before, when you get a little bit beyond that bonjour, that it all gets too fast and you panic. But I think when you were saying that, imagine, I've been to countries before, like, I don't know, let's say Kenya or Indonesia, and I love languages, and I always try and learn the equivalent of hello and thank you. And when you do it in Kenya or Indonesia or wherever, people can be really thrilled.
Absolutely,
you know, if you go into the bakery in Kenya and you say, hello, how are you?
Yes.
They'll like light up and say, whoa, thank you so much for learning it. But that will never happen in Paris, at least. That's never going to happen. And I think that is probably what scares people too. They know that, you know, like, so when you're in Kenya, you're like, I want to learn more. This is great.
Yes.
But, you know, if you go in to buy a baguette and you say bonjour, you know, they're not gonna applaud.
Yeah, but I think that it's still part of the experience, and some people may be more or less responsive to it. And Paris is a big city; there's a lot of tourists. But I still think it's very nice if you do it. And some Parisians may not notice it; some may appreciate or not appreciate it. Still, it's good to do it. And if you can say a little bit more, if you want to say a little bit more, I mean, it's your trip. You should do whatever you want to do.
True. But is it like the idea of walking in and just straight away saying, hello, I don't speak French, sorry, can I buy that Louis Vuitton bag? Is that what I mean?
I think if you're buying a Louis Vuitton bag, then you'll be fine. You know,
the
waiter will do whatever. Like not the waiter, the salesperson would be very polite and happy.
I went past the Louis Vuitton shop in Printemps yesterday. I get nervous now saying French words in front of you.
That happens.
When we were walking up here, we walked past the church that in English I would call Saint Vincent de Paul. And I said a similar version of it in French. I said, what did I say?
You said very well the first and last word. You
right.
said Saint perfectly. And you said de Paul fantastically.
Yeah.
But then you said Vincent
I said Vincent,
instead of Vincent.
Yeah.
Which is really no big deal.
Saint Vincent de Paul.
Yes, perfect.
But what I think for this episode, and always when you're in the studio, anytime I say something wrong, correct it. Because I like it.
Okay.
It's the best way to learn.
No, I don't agree with you.
For me. For you,
okay, maybe.
It's the best way for me to learn, because otherwise I just keep saying the wrong things.
Well, let me say a little bit of something about that. A lot of students think that it's the way to learn, and they ask when they are with their friends, they ask to their friends, please correct me when I speak. And I think it's terrible for your self-esteem in the language. Especially when you are a beginner. Right. If you are advanced, yes, you should be corrected. But as a beginner, chances are that you're going to mess up a little pronunciation here and there, or, you know, miss a little linking or something like that. Not everything needs to be corrected. Right. I mean, you don't have to be that perfect.
Within reason. Yeah.
So if you say something really embarrassing, yes. But like if you make something that could have a double entendre or something like that, yeah, you should correct that. But please, to the French people who listen to us, don't correct everybody when they speak French. You're not there for that, and you know, people need to gain some self-confidence that they can speak in that language.
Well, I give you the full whatever color flag it is to correct. I think, you know what I like is when you say something wrong, is when, without breaking the conversation, someone can just correct it and it continues. Yeah. So I found, like, the other day I went to Saint Vincent de Paul and you go Vincent, and I go Vincent. Yeah, continue.
But what you just said, you need to repeat it. Yeah. If somebody is going to correct you, then you need to repeat the correct form. Sure. Otherwise, just listening, just hearing to it, just hearing it is not enough. And that's always what I say. With people who work with my audiobook is repetition is the key. You need to repeat out loud, not only in your head.
Speaking of which, that's what we're going to do now, because I think it's fun. Because one of my favorite things with this show, and I've said it many times, is I love getting emails from listeners who tell me where they listen on what they're doing. Now, I always use this example, but I always remember someone that listens while they're mowing the lawn in Texas. I just love that one.
Yes.
But I've had a lot, and I should collect a list of it. But that's a note to all listeners. Anytime you email me, preface it with where you're listening and in what part of the world. But what I like to think is that right now people are listening all over the world, and we need to make them repeat stuff.
Okay.
Even if they're on the metro and there's people around.
It's a dare. Go for it.
And if you guys should film yourself doing this and send it in or whatever, because I think it's gonna be really fun. Or if you're in the supermarket. So let's get these easy ones out of the way, or the early French. Teach us exactly how you should be saying hello, thank you, and goodbye.
Okay. So bonjour. Bonjour.
There's a space for you guys to do it. Say it. Imagine if someone on the metro answers. There's a French person there.
Yeah. So you may want to put a little tone into it. Like I just said, the word without tone. So the word without tone for just pronunciation is bonjour.
Bonjour.
But then you're probably going to want to send a little love through that. So bonjour.
Bonjour. That's the one. That's what you got to say when you walk into the shop. Everyone again. Bonjour.
Bonjour.
That's good. And then the other one, thank you and goodbye.
Okay, thank you is merci.
Merci.
Merci. So again, sending a little love. Merci.
And we'll give you guys space. Go on, do it.
Merci.
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 Merci. Yep.
Okay. And by the way, in French, for women and men, it's the same intonation. So you're good. Like a man can go merci, and it's not going to sound feminine or anything special.
You know how you can say it's thank you in English, but people can say thanks. What do you think about saying merci? Just cut it short.
That would be a first.
Merci.
I mean, you can try, but it sounds really close to merde. So
which is a swear word.
Yes.
Okay. Merci.
So I would not gonna try that.
Someone, that. I don't know if they do it out your way in Paimpol in Brittany, where regular listeners to this show will remember that I traveled to on the honeymoon season. That feels like a long time ago, now, doesn't it? And
because you've been married now. So.
Yeah, but around these ways, Paris, people sometimes say si mer.
Yes.
As in backwards merci, which is a whole episode we could do on slang.
Yes.
What do you think about that?
No thoughts in particular.
Okay, be honest now, right? Let's say you went into a shop and you bought you went and bought a baguette in Paris, and there was a young guy or a young girl at the counter, and they said, that'll be €1, and you give them the 5, and they said, si mer.
That would be inappropriate for a shopkeeper to talk to a customer this way.
Okay, wait.
And if I said it, I would look totally stupid.
Okay, what about
47.
What about there's a young kid on the street, and he's going along on a scooter or something, and you step out of the way, and he said si mer.
Yeah, that's fine.
You'd be like, cool, dude.
Yeah, that's fine. It's like I like to throw a little young word from time to time. You have to be careful when you are not French to know actually what is appropriate and so on. So there's a word that's very famous right now. Well, not right now, but in the last 10 years, which is kiffer. Kiffer means to like.
And it comes from Arabic, I think?
It comes from Arabic. And so I've been using it from time to time. So my sisters kind of look at me she's trying a new word here,
Really?
So I say, je kiffe ce film.
Wow.
Instead of j'aime ce film or something
like that. Could I say
it?
Could I get away with it? Or will
Yeah,
people
you
think
could. You could. It's just, it becomes so natural now in the French language that, at least it's my view on it, that it's okay for kind of everybody to use it. But you have to be careful with slang because it's not always the case.
And the Académie Française wouldn't be very happy with the
kif.
No.
Well, I think it may have made the dictionary, so that's
really?
how, I'm not sure although, but no, l'Académie Française anyway doesn't want anything to change.
I love when languages expand and evolve like that. I think it's the most interesting thing about language, that it's a living thing.
Absolutely.
I don't know if we have new words like that, common verbs coming into English so often. I know we have loads of new words coming in, but I'm
not an English expert, dear. No. You have the wrong host, not host, but
the wrong guest. No, I've got exactly the right guest, and we've got si mer, merci. Yes. I'm going to try and use. I've got another question, just totally off topic.
We have to cover goodbye.
Yeah, we're going to do that. I've got it. Don't worry.
Say goodbye.
When I do these, I always go on tangents, but I always have the bit at the back of my head.
Okay, good.
But while I remember it, how do you say to someone like, "Oh, you've had a haircut"?
Oh. Tu t'es fait couper les cheveux.
Are you kidding me? That's way too hard.
So in fast. Tu t'es fait couper les cheveux?
Okay, everybody, let's go. Say it one more time. This is
really difficult.
I hope someone is saying this on the subway in New York. Go on.
Tu t'es fait couper les cheveux?
Tu t'es fait couper les cheveux? Cheveux?
Cheveux. Ouais.
Tu t'es fait couper les cheveux?
Ouais. Tu t'es fait couper les cheveux?
Okay, because I swear I was at basketball once, and regular listeners know all the basketball lads use the slang with me, and I struggle to keep up. And instead of couper, he said beaucoup.
Oh my
like
gosh.
he used the backwards Verlan slang. And then I've always tried to remember it. So would he have said, tu t'es fait beaucoup les cheveux? Is that what he would have said?
He probably said that.
Is there not an easier way to say it to someone?
Can
you just go, coupé?
No, you cannot. You can say, tes cheveux, c'est nouveau.
Tes
cheveux, c'est nouveau.
I think sometimes I'd rather have an easy sentence, like that kind of thing that's so quick.
Uh-huh.
Like, because my bartender, I was going to say my bartender, the guy that runs the bar near my house, had a haircut. And I wanted to say it as he walked past. And I never would have remembered, tu t'es fait couper tes cheveux. Like, it just never would have been quick enough.
Mm-hmm. On top of that, it's kind of a question where it's, dude, it's kind of obvious. Like you saw me yesterday, my hair was at my shoulder, so
But it's those
didn't fall through the night.
But I kind of like the obvious conversation sometimes because it's a conversation starter. And I feel like if you mess up your conversation starter, then there's no conversation happens.
So you can say, j'aime bien ta nouvelle coupe de cheveux.
I like that.
Voilà, j'aime bien ta nouvelle coupe. You can forget.
Coupe.
Yeah, j'aime bien ta nouvelle coupe.
Okay.
Ouais.
That's not what we came to talk about, though.
Voilà,
but you have had a haircut.
Oh, yeah. You'll see on the pictures if you want. Like, I have an afro right now.
We'll have a picture of Camille's afro.
It's going to be a surprise for my husband, whose name is Olivier.
Yeah.
And he hasn't seen it, and I'm not sure it's going to fly.
Hello, Olivier, if you're listening. And if you gave me that bowl, is this just one that you had lying around the house that someone bought for your husband?
No, we went, really,
Okay, so au revoir.
Yeah.
How do you say that?
You have two ways. The kind of enunciated way is au revoir. Lots of R's, so it's completed.
Au revoir.
Yes, au revoir.
And it literally means like to the re-seeing.
Yes, absolutely.
Like when we re-see each other, which is nice.
Yeah, but the reality of it, we tend to say au revoir. So more of an open A at the beginning. Au revoir. Au revoir.
You still pronounce that little R in the middle.
There is,
au
yes.
revoir.
Or, so kind of cut it into two. Like if you know French, how we say gold is O-R, or, and then the word to see, voir. Au revoir. Au revoir.
Au revoir.
And again, same thing, put a little love in it, au revoir, a little emotion. Language is there to pass on information, but also emotions, and especially for greetings and so on, it's important. You want to be polite, you want to smile. I don't know why, like there's so many books and methods that say, oh, don't smile in Paris, don't smile in Paris.
This is the next point we've got to talk about.
I mean, that's crazy.
Really?
Well, to me, I'm a very smiling person. I have a very large smile, and that has never gotten me in any kind of trouble.
No. Except at that funeral once.
No, then there I laugh. That's something else. That's another chapter.
But before we get onto that next point of smiling, I want to stick on the goodbye for a sec, because in Paris I've heard a lot of people say bye-bye.
Ouais, bien sûr, ciao.
But this bye-bye, at first I wondered if they're saying it because they knew I was an English speaker.
No.
No, it's they're saying it in French.
We like to use other languages, so it's very, very common to say bye-bye, to say ciao.
Ciao, I hear
or
that.
even a ciao. I don't know where the a comes from.
And that's just when they're sneezing.
Exactly, a ciao.
At the end of the conversation.
Very posh in French, like kind of from the 6th arrondissement.
Yeah.
You hear a lot, ciao. Ciao.
Really?
That's ciao. That's very posh in French.
Wow, okay.
Yeah. And
I like saying that. I like throwing people by using things like that. So I'm going to say ciao.
Ciao.
Bye-bye. Ciao.
Voilà. So, say it's in Mandarin for whatever you...
What about, can you say ciao and then add something like mec at the end? Because mec, like dude. So you're like, bye-bye, dude. Ciao, mec.
Not sure that mec fits with the ciao, because mec is more like everyday street, and ciao ciao is on the contrary kind of snobbish.
But it's the fun of it.
Words.
It's a melange.
Then you're really gonna surprise people.
Good.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, let's get back to what you brought up before. You said smile, and
Yes.
this is a contentious thing because a lot of the books that you say is Parisian women don't smile or Parisians don't smile, but you say smile.
Well, it's a personal point of view. I think that the world is a better place when people smile. It's just so much better.
True.
And I grew up in Paris. I always smiled, and that didn't get me in any kind of trouble. On the contrary, people were nice to me. Did I get a smile back? Not always. It's true that in big cities, I don't think that's unique to Paris, but in a lot of big cities, people don't smile as much as they should. And I don't say, if you're going to a public environment, like let's say that you are a young woman and you are entering a bar to, I don't know, buy something, and to the crowd you send this huge smile, hi, bonjour, like that. People are going to be a little bit surprised, okay? But once you establish eye contact with one person, like you're buying bread from one person, then do smile. Why not? It's not going to get you in trouble. On the contrary, smile in Paris, smile in France, smile in your life.
It takes people by surprise in a good way sometimes, especially in like a supermarket where people tend to, in all big cities, they tend to just go through the motions, not even say hello.
Yeah.
I often, tell me what you think of this. I often, anywhere, I say, I say bonjour, and then they say bonjour, and then I often say ça va. Because I know that you don't typically say that. And then they always sort of look up as in... And
do I know you?
Well, the reason I do it is because it's like 10 things going on at once. It's to let them know, firstly, that I'm pleasant and kind and want to say hello. But also it lets them know that I'm a foreigner and maybe struggling with French, Because if I, then they won't start rapid fire talking at me. But also I genuinely want to have an interaction with people when I meet them. And it often can lead to cool conversations. But do you think that's a no-no?
I don't think it's a no-no. I don't think there are no-nos, actually.
There's definitely no-nos.
But I have a sister who is a Parisian, like typical Parisian.
Yeah.
And she was so surprised. Like she came to visit me in Boston and then we went to New York together. And I would engage in conversation with people, like absolutely, like salespeople, especially since we were going to the shops at 5 o'clock in the morning, like it was during the Christmas season.
In New York?
We were jet lagged, and so why not? So we would hit, Macy's and so on, and the big sales at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Wow.
And so I thought that would be nice and, at least talk a little bit to the salespeople and so on. And here I am, having a conversation. Hi, how are you doing? I hope you're having a good day. Yeah. What is your family doing for the holidays? My sister is dying in the back. Think, what the heck? What are you talking about? Like telling this poor woman all your life, But I like that. Yeah. That's what life should be about. And yes, in big cities, people are going to be a little bit surprised. Even more so in France, when it's not very customary. But are they going to be shocked or are they going to think badly of it? I don't think so. I mean, you're here also to know people.
I was in Grenoble.
Yes.
In the honeymoon season as well.
Yes.
Anyone who's listening to this show for the first time wondering what I'm talking about, honeymoon season was Lena, my wife, and I going around the entire country of France for 2 months on a scooter, where we visited Camille and where.
Sorry for laughing. Sorry.
we just walked past the scooter in the street now, and Camille started laughing when she saw it again. But I went to Grenoble, and there was I went into the airlift or whatever you call it, where you go up to the top of the mountain, and I said to the guy, I said bonjour, ça va, and he just looked at me and he said, vous êtes Canadien? And I was like, why do you say that? He said, well, it's only Canadians who speak French and ask us how we are here.
Yes.
I thought it was amazing. I never heard that. I said, no, Australian. Anyway, so but, smile.
Smile, be personable. That's how you say it, personable. Do whatever you please. Do whatever you want. You don't have, there's always... Not always, but often I have this assumption that people want to fit in when they go to Paris. And yes, I understand people don't want to be rude or don't want to be inappropriate. and that's good. You should, know a little bit about the country you're going to before visiting. But nowhere does it say that you cannot be yourself, And if you are a genuinely nice person interested in meeting people, you don't need to cut this side of you because you're in Paris.
Yeah.
Just keep doing what you're doing. And don't expect necessarily to strike a conversation with the poor boulanger when it's, 9 o'clock in the morning and there's a huge line.
Yeah.
He's not going to take the time to know you. He's not going to, but you can still, smile, be friendly, make this contact. They are not machine, although they are being replaced by machine more and more. Have you seen the machines now to put your change in the bakeries?
Yeah.
Wow.
You don't that?
I have mixed feelings.
Yeah.
It's practical, it's faster, I understand, but it does limit a lot of this human contact. Should we explain these machines? Because they don't have it in the States.
You mean, so when you go in and they say that'll be €1.20 and you put the cash into a machine that spits out change for you?
Exactly. And it's, taking over the boulangerie and so limiting the human interaction that you have with the salesperson.
They've got
there.
it in supermarkets too, so you can pay by I think they would have that all over the world now.
Yes.
So you can go through the self-checkout service rather than the person. I typically go through the person.
Yeah.
I like a little conversation wherever I am.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. And these bakeries in France, they're very important, a little bit less so in Paris and the big cities, but in the smaller villages, they're important.
Do you remember we went through a drive-through bakery?
Yes, we did.
There's a video on the YouTube channel all you guys should be subscribed to. And then you taught me how to order a tradition.
Yes, perfect.
Or as I usually call it, a tradition.
Yes.
And so you corrected me.
Yes, and then Camille went, no.
And you hit me with the baguette.
Tradition with the s.
Yeah, tradition,
yes.
nation.
Yes, perfect.
Here's a story for you.
Yeah.
I was in Montmartre, the charming, beautiful Montmartre.
Yes.
How do you say it?
Like you did.
Yeah, okay.
Montmartre, perfect.
And I needed to print something. I was tackling the French admin again, and I needed to print a few pages. And I went into a printer shop, like typical. Perfect French, walked in, said, hello, I would like to print some papers. And he sat me down, and then I was having troubles. And he came up, spoke in perfect English, this young guy. And I said, how did you know I was an English speaker? Is my French that bad? Usually I say that, And he goes, no. He said, I've been working here for 20 years, and I can tell by the way someone walks into this shop if they're French or not.
Yeah.
And I said, what did I do? He goes, I can't explain it. I don't know. What do you think that was?
That happens to me a lot. People think I'm American.
Really?
And I am. I have the double nationality, but I enter places and people start speaking English to me and so on.
Really?
I think it has to do with, the fact that you did smile.
Yeah, maybe,
yeah. Maybe that. Maybe the fact that you're quite tall for a French guy.
You think
also.
it was the height? Oh,
maybe it was just the look of it.
Yeah.
And you don't strike me as French. You don't strike me as non-French.
It could have been the Australian flag I was wearing as a cape. It could have been that.
Yes, that may have given it away.
The next point that I want to talk about is, and I think this is something kind of fun. Often when you're a tourist or a foreigner and you don't speak very good any language, especially French in this case, you want to say, I don't understand. So I want you to sort of teach all of us how to say that in a few different ways.
Yes.
And including in very advanced ways. We've got a little thing here.
Okay.
Because there might be people listening who already speak French. And congratulations for continuing to listen.
Yes.
Because you won't be learning much maybe. But I think it's good. We're giving some stories in here too. But I think that's a common thing. You'll come here and someone will come to you and you maybe still want to say, I don't understand while speaking French.
Yes. And that's something quite important here actually for all listeners is that a lot of people would go for the sentence that they learned in books probably, which is je ne comprends pas. I'm doing it with a modern gliding there. So you don't really say je ne comprends pas, but you will glide the je and the ne together to say je ne comprends pas.
Everybody, one more time, Camille.
Je ne comprends pas.
Je ne comprends pas.
But that's not what I want you to repeat, actually.
Don't repeat that.
Scratch that. If you say je ne comprends pas, that means I don't understand.
Yeah.
It's final. It just, you did not understand anything.
Yeah, it's giving up.
And it's giving up. And so the person, if you said that pretty much says that you don't speak French and the person is probably going to switch to English. What you want to say, if you do speak some French and you want to keep having the conversation in French, is the same, but ending with bien. Je ne comprends pas bien. Je ne comprends pas bien. Or, je ne comprends pas tout.
Okay, everybody, let's do both of them in a row.
Je ne comprends pas bien.
Je ne comprends pas bien.
Je ne comprends pas tout.
Je ne comprends pas tout.
Yes, and what it means is
Tout.
tout. Aha.
This is a
Like
typical Oliver mistake.
vous,
Je ne comprends pas tout.
Yes, okay. Watch out. We're saying tu, T-O-U-T. So like vous, we're not saying tu. We're not saying I don't understand you as in tu. We're saying I don't understand everything, which means that there are some words that escape you, but you got the gist of it, okay? So that the other person is going to first understand that you do speak some French.
Right.
And then they are going to not repeat exactly what they just said that you did not understand.
Right.
So it's not that you didn't hear it, it's that you didn't understand it.
At least we hope that's what they'll do, because sometimes people do just repeat what they said
Yes,
for
but
eternity.
There's at least a chance that they are going to modify it slightly, either speak much slower or just find an easier way to express themselves.
Do you think it's worth saying that as well? Please speak slower.
Oh, yes. That's always the problem. To me, actually, before we started recording, I said to Oliver, please, Oliver, English is not my first language, so we need to speak kind of slower because otherwise I'm not going to be able to do it.
Do you think I'm speaking slow enough?
Yes, you are.
I wonder if the listeners have noticed a difference in my speaking today. Okay, so je ne comprends pas tout.
Yes.
Je ne comprends pas bien, monsieur.
Voilà, je
ne
ne
comprends pas bien, mec.
Yes.
Yeah. Hey, I've got another question before we
Yeah.
get back to it. I love having you here because I've got all these questions that build up over the years. I have a French friend, a good friend, Fabien. In fact, it's Fabien who I was staying with. Regular listeners will know Fabien because I was staying with him in Saint-Brieuc.
Yes, okay.
Right before we came to you on the honeymoon.
Okay.
In fact, maybe you met him. Did you meet Fabien?
No, I met his parents, I believe.
Who won't be listening? They definitely don't listen. We don't need to say hello.
Well, hello. Bonjour, monsieur. Bonjour, madame.
Well, they won't. Oh, maybe they'll be listening. Anyway, what was I going to say about Fab? Yes, so he mocks me relentlessly. When I speak French, to fill in a lot of the gaps, I often say, like that.
Yes.
Similar to that viral video I did with how to fake French, like like a monk. So I say things like, je ne comprends pas bien, monsieur. And he goes, Oliver, why are you always saying, we don't do that in France? Is he wrong?
Well, I think he's wrong.
Yeah.
Fabien, are you listening? You're wrong, dude.
He's not listening. Yeah,
Eh mec, t'as tort.
He doesn't listen.
We do say and you know what? Fabien mocks you because you say My mom mocks me because I say
But I think it's nice because it gives your French a flow. I think there's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah. So if you're speaking French, the way to say hum in French is
French people do it all the time.
Yeah, but since I speak English a lot of my life, I say hum.
So what does she say?
Hum.
She say Camille.
Oh, she goes, oh, Camille,
wow.
and so on, and say, yeah, well, mom, get over it.
So what we were talking about is this whole, can you repeat more slowly? And you said that's a good thing to say.
Yes.
What are the good ways to say it?
That would be typical, just, s'il vous plaît, parlez plus lentement.
Yep.
Or you can just skip the parler and just say plus lentement.
Can you say
s'il vous
plus
plaît.
doucement as well?
No, because doucement is soft.
I thought so because I used to work
you won't hear it.
No, I used to work. I worked in an office with a British guy, and he always said that, and I always thought that it sounded weird, but I trusted him, so I've said that since. I won't name him, but he's not listening either. But so he's just saying to everyone, "Can you speak more softly?" And they're going, "Yes, you need to pay your taxes."
Suavemente. Yes.
Okay, so it's
to pay your taxes.
so it's lentement.
Yeah, lentement.
I'm going to text
Parlez
him.
plus lentement, and actually you want to say the contrary usually. Parlez plus fort. Because the problem, a big part of not understanding is not hearing. When there's background noises or when people mumble.
Yeah.
Not mumble,
For
mumble,
sure.
but
Yeah,
mumble.
mumbo jumbo.
Yeah, exactly.
Mumble with mumbo jumbo.
Yes, exactly. You can't hear them. And especially for beginners or foreigners who are accustomed to having an overly enunciated French. That's the problem of most, French language videos or French language learning method is that they over-enunciate everything. That's not how we speak. And therefore, it can be really surprising for somebody who has not trained with the proper audio, the proper audio showing you the modern glided French. And then on top of that, if the person does not speak up, and if they speak too fast, that's it. Like, you're totally lost.
So let's do a repetition. The best way to say it.
S'il vous plaît,
Yes.
parlez plus fort. Or, s'il vous plaît, parlez plus lentement.
S'il vous plaît, parlez plus lentement.
Fort, well, plus lentement.
Madame.
Or you can, if you don't remember the whole thing, just go straight, smile, and say plus fort, plus lentement, s'il vous plaît.
Plus lentement, s'il vous plaît.
Voilà.
I was on the phone with the tax people the other day.
Yeah.
The tax people.
That seems to be recurrent in your story.
It is, because I tell you what. So, because the Earful Tower, this is a company now. Like I'm what they call a micro entrepreneur, because I'm fortunate enough to call it my job now. But the taxes are so complicated. And I called them up the other day because there was an error somewhere. I don't know. I'd made a mistake, and she spoke so quickly. So quickly, and I just said, Madame, je ne comprends pas. Est-ce que vous pouvez parler plus lentement, s'il vous plaît?
Parfait.
And she didn't do it. She just kept speaking quick. So I just let her finish, and we ended the conversation. I called back until I got someone else.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it. She just didn't.
Plain rude.
It was a bit rude.
Yeah.
Anyway, we've already been talking for a long time, longer than I thought. So let's wrap up on one of my favorite things to say. And now I can tell you one of the things I say.
Yes.
And then maybe listeners can use as well. When I want to switch to English or make it be clear that my French isn't perfect, instead of just saying plus lentement, s'il vous plaît, I've got a little trick that I use, and I want to run it by you. So I'll say it first, and then I'll explain it, or you can help me explain it. Is I say, excusez-moi, je parle français comme une vache australienne. Got a little giggle from Camille there. And the literal translation of that is, sorry, I speak French like an Australian cow, right? But there's layers to this. Because there's a saying in French, you say, oh, he speaks terrible French, he speaks like a Spanish cow. That's it, right? Une vache espagnole.
Yeah.
So I flip it around. So I'm going like deep. So my thought with that is that people hear it and they go, okay, he's doing a bit of a joke. He gets a bit of language. I like this guy. I might subscribe to his podcast. This is what they're thinking. And I'll switch to English, or I'll slow down. Do you recommend doing kind of little...
Absolutely. But you need to know what you're doing. You need to make sure that you're not like translating an English idiom into French. That may not work. But yeah, what you're doing right now is to say taking une vache espagnole and changing the Espanol part to wherever you're from. If you're not from Australia, I would not necessarily use Australian.
Okay, well, what we should do...
You'd really throw off the people there.
Let's do something. Let's do, to finish on, let's give... I'm willing to give everyone my joke to use until everyone uses it, right?
Yeah, you're so generous.
Well, I think what we should do is you should say how to say je parle français comme une vache, and then we'll do the top countries for this podcast listening.
Yes.
And then we'll do one freebie for one of the countries that has really few listeners, okay? So you have to, and I think it always has to be feminine, right?
It has, because vache is feminine. So even if you're a man, it has to agree with vache in your sentence.
So that's because at first I said je parle français comme une vache australienne, and someone says, well, it should be australienne. I was like, I don't care. I'm making a point that I don't speak French. But then since I've changed it. So, okay, you ready?
Yeah.
And these people, if it relates to them, can practice it. So let's do American.
Yes. Je parle français comme une vache américaine. Américaine.
Okay, so you guys should use that. And then another big country is Australia, which we've said, but you can do it properly.
Australienne.
The whole thing, please, Camille. The way to learn is to repeat.
Really? Je parle français comme une vache australienne.
And then there's a lot of listeners in Canada.
Je parle français comme une vache canadienne.
And then we can do England.
Je parle français comme une vache anglaise. Moo.
And so there, I think, the four biggest countries. But now we'll throw in a freebie, right? Mm-hmm. So where's a country where there aren't many listeners? Ukraine.
Je parle français comme une vache ukrainienne.
There you go, Ukraine. I'm thinking of you guys. You know, I get the list for where I can see where the listeners are. Yeah. And it's always a great source of pleasure for me to see when this podcast gets into the top charts for a country like Ukraine or something.
Yes.
It's one of my favorite things. So if you are from Ukraine and you use that, send us in a message. But full disclosure, that is my tip. Don't get angry at Camille if it doesn't work, because that's just what I personally use. But that's I think that's a pretty good introduction to how to make your way around France as a beginner.
Yeah, just be yourself, you know.
Don't lose the personality, right?
Absolutely don't. That's not why you came in this country for, you know. So yeah,
Great.
and do what you want to do.
And repeat.
Yeah.
Don't forget, send us an email if you've been repeating this stuff and it caused some funny stares.
Oh, yeah.
Because I want to hear from that. And put a comment on Camille's Instagram page, because she just started using it, and she'd love the encouragement, I think.
Oh yes.
So what is is it just at French Today?
Real French Today.
So at Real French Today on Instagram. Give her a comment. But we'll wrap it up now. Thanks for coming in the studio. Merci.
Je t'en prie.
Au revoir.
Au revoir, parfait.
Mec. No, but thank you for coming in, and we'll see you next time.
Absolument. Merci, Olivier.